Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good afternoon, everyone. Before we go on to today's meditation, I would just like to give a brief introduction to help with the meditation today. To be sure about we as a practice that we put our attention or word to the object in the way in accordance to what is taught by the Buddha in the Indriya Bhavana Sutta. Last week we had a wonderful end of class discussion after our meditation session about sankhara arising from one of the questions that were put forward, a discussion that carried on last week with one of the participants. So, building on from that discussion, I thought it would be wonderful to practice something according to what we discussed last week, which was the control of the faculties. And as we learn in the Thursday classes, as we've been learning over the years on the during the Monday classes with the Abhidhamma Sangraha, going through the sutras and then in your personal experience and in your personal time with everything that you've also learned over the way has brought us to a position where yes, we know a lot about sankhara. We have the theory of it behind us in a manner where the sankhara is spoken of in the sutras and then given a depth of paramartha or through paramartha in the Abhidharma. We come into a position where we understand that the sankharas particularly arise or can arise in 6 places, isn't it, everyone? In 6 places: the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and of course, the mind. When these sankharas, these formations, the English translation is formations, these sankharas, they arise owing to different conditions arising or presenting itself within this moment. So right now, because the monk has chosen sankhara as the topic of discussion, you find yourself now coming from all of that you've been doing through the week and now into a frame of now thinking about sankhara, which is a condition brought about by other conditions. This is what we look at through our investigation directed into the indriyas, the faculties, through the Indriya Bhavana technique. Now, Indriya Bhavana arises or happens from Sila onwards, right? From Sila onwards, where the virtue of mind, where the mind, yes, through sikkhapadas, through rules, promulgations, we align our way to a perception, and this perception allows for a pure state of being to become a condition to one's present. With those conditions at play, yes, there's a part that we don't physically do. We do not kill, we do not steal, we do not engage in sexual misconduct, we do not lie, we do not drink intoxicants. Those are the 5 basic precepts. But through those precepts, which provide a condition, Through this condition arises the discipline of the mind, where now the mind can be brought into a position, a place where the meditator, the being, understands reality in certain levels, depending on how you choose your path to be, fast developing through a lot of practice, or however you that in whichever pace that you take it. When it comes to a person who is training, when it comes to a person who is training, how does that person observe or take observe the faculties? How does a person who is a stream winner, a once returner or a non-returner, a sotapanna, sakurdagami or sotapanna, sakurdagami, anagami, puggala, how does such a person look at the Dhamma? Then how does a Arhat look at the Dhamma? This perspective or understanding of perspective is important. Now, as we train a person who is a worldling, but a good worldling, right? A good worldling, meaning a worldling who has committed to a good path in terms of self-realization, in terms of the path of Dhamma leading to nirvana with a certain amount of samma ditthi, the person is dedicated, working forward. Such a person practicing Indriya Bhavana contemplates the sensations as they arise, they see or they direct the mind in a manner to observe the fact that it is conditioned, that it is gross, that it arises, it dependently arises, that it dependently arises. The first part is, again, condition grows dependently arising. And he notes the anicca. So here the anicca, dukkha, anatta, specifically on the parts of its conditioned nature, because the conditioned nature points at anatma, the non-self, condition. It is not through self that this is being experienced. Now the self has receded to a level where insight can arise. With this insight, we observe the condition nature, that it is not me, but it is many natures being conditioned supporting this moment of experience or this experience itself. As we come away from the heavy, gross sankharas of the Sammuti world into a more present observation, we realize the mind is far more lighter than the gross Sammuti that we were in before we started meditating, or before we came into this class, or before at a time where the mind is going into akusala, a lot of attachment. From that state, we come into a state where the mind is struggling to reach a state of samadhi. During this stage, a meditator experiences a sense of disattachment towards the object to a level where one can see and observe the object being unbiased. This unbiased observation comes from a place of understanding of being in non-self. This understanding leads to the awareness where things are grows, and that is a part, the second part of the Indriya Bhavana. The third part of that Indriya Bhavana is that it arises dependent on so many reasons, dependent on so many other conditions. In this manner, we advert the mind to the present moment, noting that all of these dhammas, pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, that all of them exist within a momentary nature, impermanence, anicca. That is the way that a person who has not reached Sotapanna minimum observes the faculties. How does a stream enterer, once enterer, and non-returner observe the faculties? Within these people, beings who've started upon the stream of enlightenment, the first part of which is the Sammaditi, a right view that arises focused upon the five aggregates, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. This dukkha nature, the reality of what is within this person now. So now, the first part of training, which we will be doing today, leads to a deeper understanding of what this nature truly is. These sankharas, these are created, that arise, constantly arise. The dukkha nature of this. The pilikul, the sambhega that arises, this is not just dukkha vedana, but this is now observing from a position of dukkha satcha. Now, the five aggregates are seen by these beings who are Sotapanna, Sakurdagami, Anagami. They see the five aggregates for what it is, which is the truth of suffering. Dukkha Satcha. Here, these enlightened beings, but not fully enlightened, not a arahat, these beings observe these faculties, or all that arises within these faculties, as through the dukkha satcha. So the sambhega, the disgusted nature, the troubled nature, the ashamed nature, by the sensation that arises towards pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Not just pleasant and unpleasant, and neutral. And this arises through that equanimity and the way that that practitioner develops on that path, the reality or the realization of dukkha satcha that arises in the vipassana jnanas. The arahat is, of course, a master of these perceptions. And he applies them as he wishes. ඒ කියන්නේ, what this means is, as he wishes. The arahat does not need to push or pull anything. He does not need to keep the hindrances down, because his conditioning has completely and entirely changed. Now the arahat's mind works in a sublime manner beyond the world. With this, he's a master of the five perceptions that comes into being or experiencing the faculties. With that understanding, let us now come into our meditation. Coming into a comfortable position. Gently, gently. Advert in the mind to the present. guiding your attention towards each and every part of the body, observing the posture, the stability of the body seated for meditation, relaxing the shoulder, emptying the mind, relaxing into the present, starting with the body, letting go of sound, smell, taste, sight, and adverting your attention towards the body, observing, 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 gently, gently, letting go of all sankhara relating to work, children, grandchildren, family, friend, letting go of all of the baggage and coming into the present, guiding the mind, your attention to cut off all ties to the past, may we be forgiven for any trespasses against the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, through body, speech, and mind. May we be forgiven for the times that we've gone against the Dhamma, the teaching, in cutting our ties to the past, we seek forgiveness for all deeds as we step into this moment of presence, being with the breath. observing, letting go, observing, letting go, being in the moment, letting go of the stories, the views, as the attention and samadhi over the breath increases, the mind calming, calming, the sankharas reducing, reducing, the experiences of the present becoming lighter and lighter, gently, gently, coming away from santati pachupanna, the story, the view, formation, the gross formation, and bringing the mind to Kanapachupanna, not with your imagination, but through direct experience through the body door, observing the breath through the body door, observe observe any tiredness, any lax nature of the mind. Be aware of these phenomena if they do arise, knowing that they too are conditioned, impermanent, owing to many causes, devoid of self. Letting go, guiding your attention to be with the breath every moment, wanting nothing, just be, observe, Alobe, adose, amor, observe. Gently, with every sound, taste, smell, or color object. When and if they arise, note them as condition, growth, dependently arisen, impermanent. letting go, letting go, observing the growth, the long, the short, breath as it arises. Observe, observe, observe. Gently, as the breath becomes more and more subtle with vibration, manifesting moment to moment with a sense of equanimity. Observe these sensations all across the body, pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, as conditioned growth, dependently arisen, impermanent, impermanent, impermanent. Whenever a sankhara arises, the grossness, another ripple in calm water, grows. When the mind is in wanting, the sankharas are gross, heavy, akusala, kusala, all sankhara, heavy, grow, grow. A state without sankhara would then be rid of this grossness. Let go, let go, let go. The moment at where to any sankhara that arises has a part and parcel of the satipatthana, anicca, dukkha, satcha, anatta. See that anywhere that there is sankhara, proliferated by attachment, view, conceit, there is grossness, there is foulness, putridness, sankhara, as it arises, creating ripples. The mind is still without sankhara. The mind is free without sankhara. gently, embracing emptiness whilst putting aside, emancipating oneself from the sankhara, the stillness, the peace, gently, gently, guiding your attention towards all the faculties, gently, gently, directing the mind towards all the sankhara that may arise as you direct your attention to all the faculty, taking one object at a time, realizing look less, see more, hear less, listen more, smell less, breathe more, eat less, taste more, touch less, feel more, think less, watch more, through our understanding, through insight. We bring the mind to the present through all our abiding, walking, talking, working, eating, lying, sleeping. Through all our daily deeds, we guide our attention. We maneuver the mind, the consciousness, grounded in Sammaditi, right view. Letting go as we come to realize that we don't need much. Realization driven by the insight. We walk every step. We breathe every moment. May my entirety be for the practice. May my entirety be for the achievement of peace, transcending suffering through the attainment of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, everyone. So, how did our meditation go today? Anyone who? Yes, Devika.
Bhante, I was okay at the start, but subsequently I had a little difficulty in the sense I think I have a problem, like a little disability because of the vertigo in my neck. So at some stages, the pain was so much, I was trying to concentrate on the pain. And so I think it broke my meditation somewhat, and then I was able to go back into it.
Okay.
That made me uncomfortable.
එතකොට දැන් මේක සංඛාර දුක්ඛය.
Okay, that's what I thought, yes.
When you would observe it from the perspective of change,
Yes,
health, to let us say illness, then
yes,
you can see viparinama dukkha. And
yes,
the pain feeling that we are associating of this moment may dukkha dukkata.
yes.
Okay. So when the practice that we are on transcends or is the journey of that transcendence, the transcending of
Yes,
of of that something. So Devika, may like for all of us, when we are going through an ailment or when there is physical pain involved in our daily processes, may a good place to go to at this moment. For example, let us say the vertigo,
Yeah.
the vertigo, and even pains like varicose veins that arises from being in one position for a long time throughout,
Yeah.
as a lifestyle choice or whatnot. We find the more that we go into the present, that the more that we can be in the present,
Yeah.
realizing the sammuti of this, or of all of this, right?
Yeah.
The more that we give the pain predominance, the pain expands and expands and expands and begins to now disturb the practice.
Mm.
When we put our faith or the maneuvering of the mind at that moment through, let us say, the satipatthana,
Yes.
they are owing, ඒ කියන්නේ දැන්, when the pain increases, this is a sign for the meditator to go more into the Dhamma, right? More into the Dhamma. And what is the Dhamma? What is the Dhammatha? The Dhammatha is anicca, the impermanent. So if it is actually impermanent, it should not be able, or when we perceive it as Atma, then there is no impermanence that is seen. When there is no impermanence that is seen or observed, that means that the mind is now observing according to what it has clung on to, right? So now we are in the santati, the story, right? The story. Here, the story, you bring your attention back from that story into the Dhammata,
Mm.
right? Into the Dhammata. And how would one do that? Now, let us say during the time of breathing meditation, whilst you're doing the breathing meditation, this comes up. All right, this comes up. So, initially, what the Buddha says is within the sutras, you don't change the meditation subject from that to Vedananupassana directly. Because
Mm.
then every time the Vedana comes, you will be changing. So, you won't be doing any Anapanasati, right?
Mm.
Because you're changing because of the Vedana coming. There, the first instance, what we try to do is to, of course, observe the impermanence of it.
Yes.
The impermanence of it becomes a little bit difficult to observe if we are giving power or feeding power into that sensation. ඔතකොට මෙන්න එක දකින්න ඕන, the way the samadhi is maneuvered is, first of all, it must come from miccāditthi to sammāditthi.
Mm.
Miccāditthi, the wrong view, the proliferating view is what? That this pain is true,
Mm.
right? That this pain is something that is actually there.
Mm.
Difficult.
Yes.
That this pain is something that is actually there. We bring it into the samadhi to note the momentariness of that pain.
Yes. When
Then
it came,
අර
I
වේදනානුපස්සනා,
saw.
අර වේදනානුපස්සනාවේ වෙන දෙයමයි. හරි. ඒත් දැන් it is like, for example, are you going to, like in a tug of war, are you going to give it a try, or are you going to let go of the rope altogether?
Yes, I was giving it a try. I was saying, okay, Vedana, Vedana, and then it would go away
Yeah.
slightly, and then I would be able to concentrate. Then after a while, it comes back again. So
Now see. Okay,
yes, that's
let us
what.
break that apart, right?
Yes,
Contemplating Vedana, thinking that it will go away, right?
yes,
Now see that there is an intention that you're looking for. There is wanting, right? ඒකයි එතන කියන්නේ අර සම්මාදිට්ඨියට දාගන්නවා කියලා කියන්නේ, or putting it, bringing it from මිච්ඡාදිට්ඨි to සම්මාදිට්ඨි is on, happens on the understanding of impermanent suffering and non-self.
yes,
Hari. So a part of that non-self, a part of that non-self, a part of that impermanence and dukkha understanding is letting go. So not expecting.
Right, I understand. But
Right. So how can you do something without expecting? That means your root has to be focused. The root. Chetanaham bhikkhave kammam vadami. That root. So how, from which root is the mind arising? Alobha, adosa, amoha. When, so observing the sensation of, let us say, the vertigo or varicose veins or these sudden pains that occur through many variety of reasons, may this, when you observe through non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, that is where the liberation is. The
mm,
moment it goes on to lobe and dosa, there the liberation disappears, the opportunity of peace disappears. Now the meditation is broken.
mm,
Do you see?
yes,
So even the moment, so through this now, of course, you can't do it in one sitting, Devika. Definitely no one can. But as you go on, these sorts of sensations that may appear, and of course, the fear of mind and all of these things, let go of yourself to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha.
yes,
Let
and
go of yourself to that Dhammatha, which
yes,
is of the present, which is Munama Bunat. Whatever happens, it will cease.
mm,
Do you understand?
because
You're
yeah,
in that moment. The when you're in samadhi, it will arise subsequent to you practicing this level of letting go. Through that practice, you come to a level where you are in samadhi with one-pointedness. During this moment, everything else disappears. The vertigo, the samadhi chitta, will not allow the vertigo or the varicose veins, or it will not happen. Because the samadhi chitta has the power to protect the body.
yes.
That is what you have to be focused on. Now, of course, you have the let us
I
not
didn't have any of these things before. That
no,
is
of
the,
course, of course. I
the
didn't have any of these things before. Viparinama dukkha.
yes, Bante.
There you go.
Mm,
එතකොට මේ අවස්ථාවේ තමයි it is at these crossroads of life, right? මේ ධර්මය කියන දේ like a pool of water beautifully flowing,
mm,
ඒ විදියටම through the ripples, through the rocks, through the boulders, through all of these structures, we flow.
yes,
Whatever gets added onto the stream, the water will flow. Vidiyatama, whatever impediments that arise in this moment, that expectation arises because of tanha.
yes,
The tanha arising means you have made a decision. Sammaditi michaditi.
mm,
Sammaditi michaditi. Sammaditi michaditi.
yes,
Right. But remember, because it is all impermanent,
mm,
whether it is Michaditti, it can be brought to Sammaditthi. If it is Sammaditthi, it can go on to other levels of Sammaditthi and understanding over
mm,
the moment. But if the meditator is going to be here thinking that, okay, I've gone through all of these stages already,
yes,
then that is an impediment on its own.
mm,
Because the basis and foundation of the Satipatthana is about coming into the present, into a position that Lobha is not operating. Not
mm,
only Lobha, any of the Prapancha Dhammas are not operating. What are the Prapancha Dhammas? What are the proliferating Dhammas? Tanha, greed, ditti, views, and mana, conceit. You will find that
mm,
every moment that a sankhara, like a bubbling, frothing foam, it increases, bubbles up, bubbles up, bubbles up. Whenever these prapanchas are taking or is instrumental in maneuvering the mind, eka attarapu gamam, you will find a deep sense of peace and liberation within that very moment itself.
yes,
So whatever ailment arises, right, especially now when we sit, I know it is difficult. But when the mind fully believes in the Dhamma, when the mind fully believes in the Dhamma, not blindly, but through facts and experiences that we've already had with the Dhamma, let that soak in to each and every part of your being.
Mm.
Not distrust the Dhamma and allow the Dhamma truth to be overwhelmed by the dukkha pain.
Yes.
You understand? Dukkha
And
in ho dukkha allagatte gama, the moment that you cling on to the suffering, we must not forget, or we must always try to bring in the fact of Dhamma there. The impermanent nature, there is nothing to cling on to. Anatma, the conditioned nature. And the moment is always gross. The more sankharas you are juggling,
mm,
the more sankharas that you are juggling. Okay, right? I think,
oh,
again, do not let go of the rope. අල්ලගෙන ඉන්න.
අල්ලගෙන ඉන්නවා
Right?
අල්ලගෙන
බය now බයක් කියලා දෙයක් එන්න පුළුවන් නේ. දැන් මේකෙන් මට මොකක් හරි වෙයිද කියලා. හරි.
නෑ එහෙම
ඒ
නම් බය නෑ ස්වාමීන්
ඒ-
වහන්සේ.
ඒකනම් හොඳයි. එහෙනම් ඒ කිලේශ ගැන ඩීල් වෙන්න there's nothing
නෑ
to deal
බය
with.
නෑ ඉතින්.
ඒ වුණාට බයක් හටගත්තොත් හරි. දැන් බයක් නැහැ කියලා කියන්නත් බෑ. එහෙම බයක් if at only a non-returner is able to, when that physicality is there, only a non-returner can stop the negativity from arising.
yes.
Hari.
පෘථග්ජන
That
අපට
negativity, the Prathagjana will always. So that is why learning the Abhidhamma, it
yes.
helps us to open our minds to the myriad of potential that is there when that root or those conditions are still present.
Mm,
Right?
yes.
So
Understand.
we can't say a dosha does not arise. Only anagamis can say that dvesha does not arise. But when the mind is in the sati sampajanya, or
Yes.
in that constant awareness, observation, right? There, because of the strength of that, the more that we experience that, and we become convinced ourselves of what is truly right and wrong with that. ඒකනේ බුදුහාමුදුරෝ ධර්මයේ මනින්නම කිව්වේ ධර්මයෙන්.
Oh,
Right? ධර්මයේ මනින්න කිව්වෙම ධර්මයෙන්. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ this reality becomes truth and becomes recognizable and understanding that you have over your world there,
mm,
your experience of what is. So what we do here in the Sunday classes or our other classes is only a edging on, a support. The work that you do is really when you shut off the Zoom and you go on your own way for that moment. That
mm,
is where that starts. That
yes.
is where that work starts. Okay? හරි. බය වෙන්න එපා.
Yeah.
හරි. බය වෙන්න එපා. Do not be scared. ධර්මයටම දාන්න. මොනවටද බය වෙලා ඉන්නේ?
Yeah.
මොනවටද අපි බය වෙන්නේ? Why should
But
we
I
be
just
scared?
want to query with you. I
හරි.
want to just to
No,
share
no,
that.
දේවිකා, I know. දැන් ගිය සැරේ සුජාතාව අල්ලගත්තා. මේ සැරේ ඔයාව අල්ලගත්තානේ.
මාව අල්ලගත්තා. Okay.
නම් මේ දේවිකාගේ මේ දන්වැල ගලව ගන්න වෙන කෙනෙක් එනම් වොලන්ටියර් වෙන්න.
දැන් වෙන කෙනෙක් අල්ලගන්න සරි.
තේ ගිය සුමානේ මගේ ඇල්ලීමෙන් හුඟ දෙනට සෙතක් වුණා.
Oh, definitely. I think all the questions that we get are, depending how, of course, conversation goes, it becomes quite useful for everyone.
Thank you, Bante.
අපි මේ ම්,
Thank you, Bante.
කාටද අපි යන්නේ? කෝෂලි තියෙනවද කෝෂලි ප්‍රශ්නයක්? Any, how was your experience?
Experience was okay, but I have a question. Why you referring all these
Oh.
things as sankara? Because they are like sanya. එහෙම එතනවනේ.
මෙන්න මෙතන මේ සංඛාරයේ ඒ සංඥාව අල්ලගන්න කෝෂලී to become clear on the sanya, you become, let me say it like this. The sanya is purest when it is not shrouded in the sankharas. In that conversation, we've identified two terms that we refer to, Santati Pachuppanna and Kana Pachuppanna. මතකද කෝෂලේ?
එහෙමයි.
ඔතකොට අර අපි හොයන සංඥාව හරි ඒ පිරිසිදුවම the clarity and the sanya with that vibrancy of the moment is felt only at the kana moment, not the santati moment. So it is in the letting go of sankhara. So what do we do when we practice anapanasati? We are letting go of all other meditation techniques. We are letting go of the vedananupassana that we might be doing often. We let go of the sammati. We let go of all other sankharas and isolate our attention to observe one specific sankhara, which is the sankhara that arises through the rupa, which is the rupa sankhara එතන තියෙනවා, and then the mano sankhara which observes the breath. දැන් මෙන්න මේක තමයි දැන් රූප සංඛාරය තමයි through the chittaja rupa, sorry, kammaja rupa, right, which creates the involuntary breath. Hari. When we start controlling the breath, it becomes chittaja rupa, not kammaja rupa. There chittaja rupa වෙනවා. හරි චිත්තජ රූප වෙනවා එතන. ඔතකොට දැන් එතන රූප සංස්කාරයක් තියෙනවා. මේ රූප සංස්කාරය උස්ම මේ physical මේ නාස්කුඩුවෙන් මේ lungs, all of the diaphragm, when you feel all of that, it's heavy, isn't it? It's heavy. It's very heavy. It's gross. හරි. Now we let go of that sankhara. But letting go of that sankhara, we bring ourselves to a deeper truth, which is focused upon the present. That is where that Indriya Bhavana helps us into that regard, and we can continue that Indriya Bhavana forward. But the Satipatthana, although we take this Indriya Bhavana out and we define it as a Bhavana on its own, the Indriya Bhavana is part and parcel of the Satipatthana process. Is part and parcel of the Satipatthana process. Kaushali,
Yes.
do you have a follow-up on that?
So එතකොට අර උදාහරණයට ගත්තොත් දැන් මේ heaviness එක ගියාම එතකොට present එකට එනවා. එතනින් ආයෙමත් ඉන්ද්‍රිය ඒ භාවනාවම ඒ දිගටම ආනාපානසතිය කරගෙන යනකොට එතනින් අර මේ කියන්නේ සංඥාව තනි එහෙම තනියෙන් ගන්නවාද? එහෙමද?
Now think of it like a lotus blooming, Kaushali. A lotus blooming. හරි. අර භාවනාවේදී අපි කියපු ඒ කතාව look less, see more. Hear less, listen more. Smell less, breathe more. What we are putting it on to our Indriya Samvara, when we speak on the grounds of sense restraint, Indriya Samvara, in that Samvara, part and parcel, there is physicality, there is mentality. In the Indriya Bhavana, or the Indriya Bhavana begins with that Indriya Samvara, which leads to the guarding of the sense doors. The guarding of the sense doors. When we guard the sense doors, how do we guard it? Sati Sampajanya. Onto the sense doors, and as these different sankharas arise, for example, the sensation of the breath or pain, all of these things are sankhara. Why are they sankhara? Because these sankharas are sankata uhetuin sankhara.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
අනිච්ච වූ හේතුවෙන් සංඛාර, දුක්ඛ වූ හේතුවෙන් සංඛාර, දුක්ඛ සත්‍ය වූ හේතුවෙන් සංඛාර. Because all of these dhammas are impermanent, conditioned, Sankata Dhamma. Because they are conditioned, ultimately it leads to its ceasing, its own ceasing. When attachment arises to something which naturally ceases after a moment, then there is attachment to something that has now ceased. Now potential for dukkha arises. Looking arises, searching arises. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. All of these things in different ways, motions, depending on the conditions that are present. So what we could do with the Indriya Bhavana, which starts at the level of Indriya Sambara, part of Sila, part of Samadhi, and in the Vipassana, we consider in the Vipassana, it comes down to the mind. Where we understand through the Chetana, එතකොට මේ සති සම්පජන්ණයෙන් ධර්මයටම හිත දාලා as a nature when we observe through the Satipatthana, it is like a lotus blooming. We realize that I don't need to look to see. I don't need to hold and keep near to feel, touch to feel. Does that make sense? It becomes more a harmonize, a Dhammic harmony comes through what? Through the Samma Ditti, because we see these things.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Ar
Thank you.
Kama Tanhava. So look less, see more. You can see that the Kama Tanha is there. It's reducing. Why is the Kama Tanha reducing? Because that is Indriya Sambara. I don't need to see. Right? I don't need to see. It's like, for example, if someone is watching, let us say, sports, and you're not very interested in that specific sport, they may be shouting, come and see this or whatnot, but there is no inclination inside to see. But this inclination is not there because you're not into sports, maybe. But then you can be into so many other things. Look less, see more. Hear less, listen more. Smell less, breathe more. Eat less, taste more. Touch less, feel more. Think less, watch more. Samadhi, watching the mind. This comes as Indriya Sambara in the Indriya Sambara Sutra. Now, in that part, if I may share this chart with you, now look at this. This makes it so much more clear. Where we observe, or the sense faculties, we have the eye which sees color, right? Form, color. Ear, where this is sound, nose. Really, this form, um, the eye sensitivity is there for color, right? Color. Now, the form is something that is cognized through the colors. Do you understand?
Yes.
Something that is cognized through the color. So, මෙතන form කියන එක, when I see form here, it doesn't also sit well with me a little bit. මොකද මෙතන eye sensitivity එක තියෙන forms වලට නෙමෙයි, color වලට. ඒක අපි හොඳ කලාප භාවනානයම කරනට ඒක හොඳටම තේරෙනවා මොකද ඒ වර්ණයකට තමයි ඒක නලියන්නේ. චක්කු ප්‍රසාදේ නලියන්න පටන් ගන්නේ the චක්කු ප්‍රසාද or the sensitivity gets activated only for color, not form. මේ අවස්ථාවේ form එකකුත් නැහැ, color එකක් විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. ඒ color එකෙන් අපි discern කරනවා form එක. Hari, we discern the form there. So here I'm going to say form නෙමෙයි මෙතන color කියලා I'm going to say, right? Ear, sound, correct. Sound. Nose, smell. Tongue, taste. Body, touch. Mind is the Dhammata. Hari. දැන් මේ ear, sound. දැන් මේ sound එක ශබ්දය කාරකක් වුණේ ගමන්ම. Do you understand?
Yes.
ශබ්දය වෑන් එකක්, බස් එකක්, ළමයෙක්, දරුවෙක්, ගෑනු කෙනෙක්, පිරිමි කෙනෙක්, සතෙක් ගුණේ ගමන්ම ඉවරයි.
Sankara.
එතන නෙමෙයි අපි ඔතකොට අර සන්තති අර කතාව we have now gone on to that අර ස්ටෝරි එකට.
Mm.
Right? So you identify the sound is just a sound. To come into that position, if you are hearing the cat or you're identifying, try to bring your mind into a position where you are no longer identifying because you don't have a need to identify. Do you understand?
Yes.
There is no need to identify. Why is there no need to identify? Because that's a sammuti.
Yeah.
Because that is a sammuti. මේ වෙලාව පරමාර්ථයට. සම්මුතිය අනිත්‍යයි. The sammuti, the convention is impermanent. The convention is suffering. But moreover than impermanent suffering, the convention is a prajnapti. Prajnapti doesn't have a rising, processing, passing away. Mayavak, chayavak, like a reflection. Right? So we are not focusing on a mirage, we are focusing on reality. That is why we come from the mirage or the acceptance of the mirage. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම අර කලින් කියපු කතාව දේවිකා ඔයාට මේ වර්ටිගෝ තියෙනවා කියලා වර්ටිගෝ මේ වේදනාව හටගත්තාම මේක වර්ටිගෝ මේක වෙරිකෝස් වෙයින්ස් මේක ෂෝල්ඩර් පේන් එක මේක බැක් පේන් එකක් for everyone who has these different issues ඒක the moment that you identify තණ්හාව හටහරගන්න. ඔතකොට දැන් මේක දාගන්න දැන් මේක තමයි ඔතකොට කර්මස්ථානේ. ඒක හටගත්තේ ගමම අපි දාගන්නේ එතන body not vertigo. Body not මොනවද මේ varicose veins or headache or shoulder pains or backaches or no touch පොට්ටබ්බ touch. Does that make sense? හරි ඔතකොට දැන් මනස if you take the mind and then the dharma right මේ mind and then the dharma okay දැන් අපි හිතමු දැන් මනස බලාගෙන ඉන්න අවස්ථාවේදී at the moment that you are observing the mind or reflecting or your sati sampajanya is on the mind the moment the mind has a story කියමු දැන් මේ ආනාපානසතිය you're observing you're observing the breath you're trying to be with the breath be with the breath be with the breath that is your focus that is what you're here for that is what you want to do that is how you want to be when your entire focus falls into the present moment of the breath another story arises let us say now upon the breath a certain you start thinking about let us say a dhammapada regarding the breath හරි ධම්මපද regarding the breath now ඒක ලස්සන ධම්මපදයක් උත් එක it is a very nice ධම්මපද so you take very good reflection inside දැන් ආවුණා do you understand breath 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 in breath out breath in breath out breath long in breath long out breath short in breath short out මේ ඔක්කොම මොනවද මේ සංඛාර ඉවත් කිරීම getting rid of the sankhara, coming into a position where you are really in the present with your prajna, your light of wisdom shining bright and true towards the present object, whatever that object might be. Whatever that object might be. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? So the moment that it goes on to the story, we bring it back, we bring it back, we bring it back. Eye is only color. Sound, ear is only sound. Nose is only a smell. For example, with smells again, if you're smelling something and if you identify it or go into the identification, that is, I'm smelling this specific thing. No, you draw yourself back. Right? Taste, same thing. This is saliva. Why does my saliva taste this way? Why does my mouth taste this way? No, you've identified. Bring yourself back. Bring yourself back. Find your place where your attention is one pointed. Body, touch in the same manner. When he observes in this manner, when the meditator observes, he the feeling. He feels them as agreeable, disagreeable, agreeable, or neutral, meaning this is the Vedana Chetasika, remember, right? The feeling and the encompassing of mind, at that moment, you're seeing is agreeable, disagreeable, meaning a somanasa, domanasa, or upekha, pain or feeling, Vedana. You observe that as what the perception is what? Conditioned, gross, dependently arisen, and impermanent. These are the four manners by which you maneuver the perception when it comes to observing these dhammas. Hari. So now this would encompass pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant sensations that arise. Hari. So even with, for example, remember, it is not only color, sound, smell, taste, and touch, meaning not only just illnesses or states that are experienced by the body, but this also means the mind. If the mind sees in the same manner somanas, happiness, or pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, even in mind objects, in the same manner, conditioned, gross, dependently arisen, impermanent. Now, when the mind goes on to looking back, reminiscing, ruminating, hmm, ruminating, in let us say memories, it should have been this way, or this way, or if I had made this decision at that time, all of these things that could very easily happen as sankharas. Maybe even sometimes, let us say, a friend that we couldn't call back, and unfortunately something tragic happened to the person, or the person just simply passed away, and you regret that sort of ruminating. Why couldn't I have called back, or I could have been a bit more active on that regard, or whatnot, whatever sensations of mind arises, all of that itself is again monoada, conditioned, gross, dependently arisen, impermanent. Conditioned, gross, dependently arisen, and impermanent. මෙන්න මේ දේවල්, if we try to do these sorts of things without Dhamma, you will become a narcissist. But with the Dhamma, with the Buddha's teachings guiding us in the right light, with the light of alobha, adosa, amoha, non-greed, non-attachment, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, which is prajna, wisdom. This wisdom is seasoned or nurtured through samadhi, right view. When right view is present, Atma Ditti, Sakasanya, those things are not there. What is Atma Ditti? This is the view of self. Sakasanya is Sakkaya Ditti, which is the English can Sakkaya Ditti, the view of self. Right? Now, these things do not occur when wisdom is shining through. So, because of the Dhamma element being present, the wisdom of the Buddha guiding this, we do not fall into those states. Selfishness, arrogance, or whatever it is to do with that side of being a self-believer to an extreme extent, because you've cultivated this in your mind, right? And then to a cultivation that is led by the spirit of Nibbana, is two very drastic things. So remember, everyone, at the end of the day, our motivation should be springing from the purest springs of Dhamma, not conditioned by vain needs and wants that we feel that is present in to let us say this life, or what we think. අර ශ්‍රද්ධාව කියනකොට ඒ ශ්‍රද්ධාව ධර්මයේ බුද්ධ වචනය බුද්ධ ධම්ම සංඝ. Due to that Buddha Dhamma Sangha element, it will always be righteous. It will always compensate me letting go, loving kindness, and wisdom. Letting go, letting go is renunciation. Loving kindness, alo adosa, and amoha, wisdom. Hari, that is the way forward for us. At every point that these Indriyas come to sort of be an encumbrance. Now, do we have any questions that you would like to ask? Odil?
Bhante, can you please explain? Now there is Atma view, and that is a view of self, but Sakkaya Ditthi is also view of self. But you explained it differently. I couldn't quite catch it.
Yeah. So the view of self, Sakkaya Ditthi, the view of self, Atma Ditthi. මේ සක්කාය දිට්ඨියට හෝ ආත්ම දෘෂ්ටියේ තව කොටසක් තමයි මේ සක්කාය දිට්ඨිය කියන්නේ. හරි. එතකොට මේ ආත්මවාදය ආත්ම දෘෂ්ටිය කඩාගෙන තමයි අර සක්කාය දිට්ඨිය කියන දේ අපි දකින්නේ. So ආත්ම දිට්ඨිය is a more general term for the self-centric perception. When we are referring to Sakkaya Ditthi, specifically we are referring to the view of self encumbering the present moment awareness or perception. So the Ditthigata Sampayuta Chitta still, right? The Ditthigata Sampayuta Chitta. So Sakkaya Ditti disappearing is the fact that Ditthigata Sampayutta Chittas with wrong view, Ditthigata Sampayutta. Ditthigata Vipayutta is where you don't know that this is a wrong view, right? You don't know, but Ditthigata Sampayutta, you know that this is a wrong view. At the back of your mind, you know what you're saying or what you're doing is wrong. But that kind of consciousness will not appear to a Sotapanna. So knowing that this is wrong, such an action will not happen. Why? Ditthigata Sampayutta Chittas are not there. They do not arise. ඔතකොට ඩෙල් අපිට තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන් ආත්ම දෘෂ්ටිය, ආත්ම දිට්ඨි, සක්කාය දිට්ඨි is the same. Right? But Atma Ditti specifically refers to a more broader term in the complex structure of self up onto enlightenment as a arahat. As a arahat. Because you might get rid of Sakkaya Ditti, but you have not yet got rid of Atma Ditti as a you have got rid of Atma Ditti, that non-self arises at the time of the arahat. Hare,
Thank you, Bhante. So that Atma Ditti is a much more generalized. So it's just a description of self, like this. But the Sakkaya Ditti is much more specific because we are aware of the chittas, the Ditthigata Sampayutta chittas that really cause the Sakkaya Ditti. So it's much more specific because they are like a Sotapanna, we be fully aware of what the chittas and that those are no longer there. Other one is just a view of telling what is Atma Ditti, just a generalized view of a self-view. Okay, Bhante, I think I understood it.
This is මෙතන Dil Sakkaya Ditti කියලා කිව්වම, right? Personality belief. Saka කියලා කිව්වම Saka කියලා කියන්නේ මේ තමන්ගේ කියන එක. Right? තමන්ගේ. දැන් අපිට මේම කියන්නත් පුළුවන්. තේ කෝප්පයක් හදන්නේ මේමයි. This is the way that you would make a cup of tea. Right? And then there is a way that you make the cup of tea for yourself, the way that you prefer. Right? When now that is personality. belief. Now, this is, I like my cup of tea with 2 spoons of sugar or 1.5 spoons of sugar. I want the milk to be heated up as well. I don't like cold milk put into the tea. You know, all of these ways that we prefer things and like things, right? Now, that is a personality belief, make a personality good. Then, අත්දිට්ඨි, right? අත්දිට්ඨි is එතන translate කරන්නේ personality belief වශයෙන් නෙමෙයි. එතන අත්ත දෘෂ්ටිය කියලා කියන්නේ ego ආර්ථය, ego illusion එක, right? Ego illusion. So when you refer to the Sakkaya Ditthi specifically, now we are watching the Rupa and the Nama as they exist distinctively, make a ganni api, make a ganni or a Sakkaya personality washing. Hari, personality washing. Whilst when the ego belief is there, which is like eternal belief and annihilation belief, right? Eternity belief and the annihilation belief. Me Sakkaya Ditthi and Atta Ditthi. Then me Atta Ditthi කියලා කිව්වම it is somewhat similar but not so similar as well, because it is referring to the ego illusion. The illusion that there is an ego. What is the illusion that there is an ego deal? බුදුහාමුදුරු මතක ඇති ඔයාට මේ I am better than someone, I am equal to someone, I am lower than someone. ඔතකොට දැන් බලන්න එතන මේ view එක, that view is ego illusion, අත්දිට්ඨි. Right? Thinking that I am higher, I am equal, or I am lower. That comes from අත්දිට්ඨි. Right? Then අත්දිට්ඨි. There the ego becomes a measure of this circumstance. Am I deserving? Am I not? Is this suitable? Is this not? That is done through an ego illusion aspect when we observe dhammas that are there. But from the moment of sotapanna, the belief or that sakkaya මෙන්න මෙතන මේ personality මේ විදියටමයි මේක වෙන්න ඕනේ කියන ඒ තද ගතිය එතනින් නැති වෙනවා. That sheds. That sheds. But the complete අර්ථය කෙරෙහි තියෙන complete there shed කරන්නේ at the moment of arahatship, through the seeing of that non-self.
මන්තේතන අස්මිමානය කියලා කියන්නේ
අස්මිමානය කියලත් කියනවා, yes. අස්මිමානය, where it is asmi කියන්නේ තමන්, me. අස්මිමානය. So, do we have any
Bhante, thank you.
tell? හේමමාලියෝ
බන්තේ දැන් අර මේ ගොඩ මට දැනුණ එකක් තමයි අද මෙඩිටේෂන් වල බන්තේ අර බෙත් එක සැටල් වෙනකොට ග්‍රොස්නස් එකත් අඩු වෙනවා වගේ. ඊට පස්සේ සවුන්ඩ් එක ආවහම ලොකු සවුන්ඩ් එකක් වගේ දැනෙන ඒ ඩිෆරන්ස් එකද ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ අර ඉම්පර්මනන්ට් කිව්වහම අපිට දැනෙන්නේ.
impermanent කිව්වම දැනෙන්නේ
ඒ ඩිෆරන්ස් එක දැන් අර මට දැනුණා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ අර ග්‍රොස්නස් එක ගොඩක් අඩුයි කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ සවුන්ඩ් එකක් ඇහුනහම වැඩි ගතියක් දැනුණා. එතන පොඩ්ඩක් එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරලා දෙන්න සන්නස. එතන සන්නස ඊට පස්සේ ඉම්පර්මනන්ට් කියලා දෙයක් කිව්වා. එතන මේ අර ඩිෆරන්ස් එකද සන්නස. ඒ කියන්නේ
මොනවද impermanent කියන එකද?
සන්නස එතන මම ඒක සටල්නස් එකයි සවුන්ඩ් එකයි දකින්නකොට සන්නස impermanent කියනවා ඇහුණා. ඒක I want to ask you whether is it the different impermanent කියලා කියන්නේ to see the difference the කියලා.
What is to see what is the difference that you're
different කියන්නේ සටල්නස් එකේදී සවුන්ඩ් එක අඩු සවුන්ඩ් එකක් දැනුණා සන්නස පිට. ඒක අර සටල් වට දැනිලා මේක ග්‍රොස් ගොඩක් ග්‍රොස් වට දැනුණා.
Okay.
එතන එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරන්න සන්නහට අහන්න තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ
Okay, okay. තාම මටත් තේරුන්නේ නැහැ මොනවද අහන්නේ කියලා. ඒ වුණාට මම එතන පොඩ්ඩක්
ඒක.
explain
වෙනසක්
කරන්න.
දැක්කා ලොකු
හරි.
වෙනසක්.
Then when we are observing the subtlety or these dhammas coming in from the gross into the more subtle forms as well, at first they are subtle to us, but then they become seen or experienced as gross themselves again as well, right? But we continue adverting through this perception, continue adverting through the perception of Sankata, this condition grows dependently arisen and impermanent again and again. That if we are looking at the condition, we of course see that this is like this because of other conditioned Dhamma. මෙන්න මේක පේන පටන් ගන්නවා. When we are referring to the grossness, the subtlety as the mind becomes more and more detached, you begin to see how heavy and gross it is. It is like, for example, um, from a person who has a house full of, ornaments and furniture and a very crowded house. And then when the person sees the house is crowded, now the person wants to, let us say, an intention comes to become a bit more lighter to the eye. So then this person starts reducing. That reducing starts with that seeing of grossness or that experience that we see there. When it is conditioned, the more conditions there are, the more gross something also becomes. Right? But however gross that they might be, this grossness, as we observe, that grossness, again, they dependently arisen. Meaning, when other conditions persist, this condition is present. It is not one. It is a result of many conditions. Many conditions. These conditions, these dhammas that are present as results of those conditions, in all are impermanent. Because they always cease. But to see that impermanence, you'd have to be able to observe the growth a bit more, the conditioned a bit more, where you are more familiar with these. Then you see the impermanent. Then, although the condition to pේනවා, growth උද්දැන් පේනවා, distinctly, dependently arisen උද්දැන් පේනවා, impermanence එකක් දැන් පේනවා, when you are able to observe all of these factors, in impermanent. It is like, it's somewhat like very good commentators, right? It's like commentators, even at a football game or a cricket match. The commentators who would observe this, not from a player's perspective, but from an observer's perspective. From the observer's perspective, what you are experiencing is an entirely different object. හරි. ඒ ඔබ්ජෙක්ට් එකේ තුල තියෙන ආත්ම භාවය, the atma, the ego or the self that is in that object as we perceive, the more that reduces and the more that you allow that to reduce, that is where that throwing yourself into the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha in that present moment comes, where you're able to completely allow this condition to be seen, gross to be seen, dependently arisen to be seen, impermanent to be seen, through what? Through letting go. Through loving kindness, which is regardless of what the experience is, there is a certain sense of acceptance. You're not bothered. Why are you not bothered? Why? Because of the confidence in the Dhamma. You know that it is impermanent. You know that it is prone to suffering. You know that this is non-self, right? Non-self. It is like, for example, you can watch a horror movie knowing fully well that this is horror movie, right? But if you watch this, like, when you're younger, when you're small and you watch a horror film, maybe some of you are still scared of horror films, right? But when right, but when you're watching the horror film as it's just a movie, right? Then you don't have nightmares. You can watch the horror film like it's real. You can watch the horror film like it's a movie, right? Like it's a movie. When it's a movie, then the moment you off the screen, it's gone. But now when there is anxiety over this is real life, then by you see how the prapancha is even in that extent, that all of that is prapancha, right? All of that is prapancha. When you're seeing and when you're, what is the word that was used? Me? When you're looking for that in that way and then you see more. You see more. You see more of the fact. Now the person who's watching a movie sees the quality of the actors and the actresses, the emotions that they display, or the talents behind or whatnot, or how they portray the movie, the production, or you're seeing more now. Earlier you only saw emotions, or what you saw, what you assumed was real. But you're seeing more now. Why? Because of the observation. In the same way with sound, right? With sound, when you believe sound and take it at its face value, you get into horrible trouble sometimes. Huh? But then when you're evaluating, when you're hearing less, but you're listening more, you realize so much more about the conversation. The voice, the tone changes, all of these different things as well that comes into the picture. So in hearing less is you put the ditti, the view in front of you, and you're looking through that. Look less, you're putting the view in front of you and you're seeing through that. Whether this ditti is a good one or a bad one, when it is mundane, it is mundane. When it is lokotra supramundane, it is supramundane. When it is sublime, it's sublime. Does that make sense? Right? So our practice becomes where we inspire it through that vipassana. What is that vipassana practice? Minameka. Right? This is the Indriya Bhavana Sutra. You might be remembering these charts we've already done, right? Through Piyatan. Now, what I mentioned earlier, those who are not a Sri Mantra, that person sees the sensation that occurs, which can be agreeable, disagreeable, neither agreeable or disagreeable, which is neutral, upekha. Whatever the sensation is, it is easy to see the disagreeable, right? Quite easy. Why? Because it's gross, very gross. Then you see the agreeable a bit more subtle in comparison to the disagreeable. But there are moments that the agreeable is also very strong, where you want to do. Very strong there as well. The neutral is where there's a blandness of feeling. Neither good nor bad. Neither good nor bad. So if you're observing me right now and you're very much focused in trying to grasp, but whilst you're focusing at this time, your focus is not on feeling, your focus is on understanding, penetrating, discerning that. At this moment, you might feel a blandness of sensation as you're seated there in front of your TVs or computers or mobile phones, watching and listening. You might feel a blandness of sensation. Now, that sensation, everyone, is upekka. that blandness. Do you understand? Then balanna. Now see, the most gross of them all is the akusala, or the, let us say, the painful. The most subtle would be the, how do I say, the agreeable. The most subtle would be the neutral. Do you understand? Me tunama, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. We develop what? Conditioned, gross, dependently arisen, impermanence. Otakuta, somanassa vedana, domanassa vedana, right? And upekha vedana. We must be able to, as it arises, for all three of those vedanas, as they arise, to discern the condition, the gross, the dependently arisen, the momentary. Ekata attarinno. Ekata attarinno. You have to let go. So whilst the body, the mechanisms of the body are ongoing, you can see all of this happening. Start observing it like a bird's eye view, right? Or we do that already. And now the function is going on. You can see it very well. The sensations and the body of sensations and all of these things. Sankhara, you're observing. Nonchalant, not biased. Ethana inna puluwang. The only person who can maintain themselves at that position is a person who falls entirely and completely onto the Dhamma, into the Dhamma at that moment. Do you understand? Right? Now, for example, let us say a intention comes or a volition arises, a thought arises to say, let us say, am I doing, where am I going? Where am I going? Right? Where am I? A thought arises. What is this? A thought arises. When that thought arises, if the automatic response for that thought becomes a stressful, something that is stressful, that's something that is agitating in nature, otod then paraduna. So we come back and we bring it, put it down to the Dhamma where whatever happens, it is impermanent. Whatever happens, it is such and such. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. These experiences, we become more and more confident in them as and the more that we meditate. Neda.
ගොඩක් කරන්න ඕනනේ.
නේ
ගොඩක් මෙඩිටේට් කරන්න ඕන නේද වන්ට?
ගොඩා මේමනේ ගොඩාක් මෙඩිටේට් පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්න හෙම්මා. You know how to rile me up, no? මේ ගොඩාක් බන්තගේ ට්‍රිගර්ස් ටික මේ ගොඩාක් මෙඩිටේට් කරන්න ඕනේ කියන්නේ ගොඩාක් කියන ඒ සංඥාවත් එන්නේ ආත්ම දිට්ඨියෙන්. ඒ කියන්නේ ගොඩාක් මෙඩිටේට් කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා හිතන්නේ because we perceive ourselves in a position of lacking development. No? That perception over oneself that I am lacking development or I have a long way to go arises from where? I. ඔදුකට අර වර්තමාන මොහොතේ අපි ඉඳගන්නොත් ඉතින් මේවෙනි විතර්කවන් වලට ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි හැම වෙලේම ඒ කියන්නේ මේ moment එකේ at this moment if we can balance the eightfold path in one consciousness. හරි. ඒ කියන්නේ ත්‍රි හේතුක චිත්තයක්, a three-rooted consciousness. We focus on an object with the most sublime and transcending Dhamma nature. අනිච්ච දුක්ඛ අනාත්මය කියන මේ තුනම මනසට මේ විදියට වැටුනේ ගමන්ම මොකද වෙන්නේ? enlightenment at that level. ඔතකොට මේක this can happen at any moment here, but it happens within the mind that let goes of self. ඔතකොට අර වගේ self-deprecating thoughts, right? and අපේ සම්මාදිටියට එකඟ වෙන්නේ නැති අදහස් හිතට දාගන්න එපා. ඔව් ඔක්කොම විතර්ක. Please.
Yeah.
බන්තෙව මේ ට්‍රිගර් කරන්න වුණත් මේ බන්තෙව රයිල් අප් කරන්න වුණත් කරන්න එපා. මොකද ඒව ඔක්කොම විතර්ක. ඔව් ඔක්කොම විතර්ක. ඔය මොහොතක් හේම්මාලේ ඔය වචනය මට මේක කරන්න බැරි වෙන්න පුළුවන් නැත්නම් තව ගොඩාක් කරන්න තියෙනවා. ඔය වචනේ මේ භවයේ විතරක් නෙමෙයි ඕක දෝංකාර දෙන්න පුළුවන් අනාගත භව ගොඩකට. හරි. ඒ හින්දා එවැනි විතර්ක do not arouse මිච්ඡාදිට්ඨි විතර්ක එවැනි විදියට හැම වෙලේම මේක දාන මේ මොහොතේ. හරි මේ මුළු මහත් ධර්මයේම තියෙන්නේ all of this dhamma is present in this moment, not in the future, not in the past, in this moment. So if we can decide, we are able to cultivate our faculties, our mind, through the satipatthana to come into a state of profound disattachment from the moment, upon the realization and based upon the guidance from the Samma Sambuddha. Hari. From the Samma, by the Samma Sambuddha. Hari. එහෙනම් තව අපිට මේ ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද?
එක ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආව බන්තේ. In
දැන්
your
ඕකත්
chart.
සංඛාරයක්. ඔය ප්‍රශ්නේ සංඛාරයක්.
අසංඛත ප්‍රශ්නයක් මේක.
Shiroma, we have to let go everything, Shiroma.
මං කියවනේ අසංඛත
ඔය
ප්‍රශ්නයක්.
ප්‍රශ්නේ ශිරෝමා.
We have to
මේ
let go.
ප්‍රශ්නය ඇහුවහම හිතෙයි මේ සංකාරයක්ද කියලා. බන්තේ අර මේ chart එකට යමුද please පොඩ්ඩක්. අර chart එකක් වෙන් අන්න ඒකේ අර last column එකේ third column එකේ last box එක. He is a master of the 5 perceptions,
Yeah.
applying them as he wishes, may
Yeah.
noble one, accomplished one.
Yeah.
ඒක ගැන චුට්ටක් කියලා දුන්නොත්.
So the 5 perceptions, we have them here. මේ තියෙන්නේ. හරි. 5 perceptions කියලා කියන්නේ the way. Now sanya, we know perception arises with the mind at every moment. Should sanya not arise, the mind does not arise itself. Just like its counterpart support, which is vedana, sensations. So every consciousness will have a sensation. Here, when you're looking, right, at an object, this is talking about an arahant. If he wishes thus, right, a arahant can maneuver his mind in whatever way that they wish. Do you understand? Right?
Yes.
Meaning the arahant can be in the middle of a music festival, right? Not giving into the music. Does that make sense? No?
Yeah.
Right. The arahat could have every choice food in the world without getting caught and being strung in by the taste.
Yeah.
Right? Just so. Why? How can the arahat do it? Because he has complete mastery over his mind. Why? How? Because tanha, dvesha, these prapancha dhammas no longer control his mind. In being in such a situation that arahat can perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive, right? A disagreeable object. So perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive. ඔතකොට නරක මනුස්සයෙක්, the arahat can look at a bad person, right? A bad person, right? And associate with that object, right? Seeing the unrepulsive in the repulsive, if he wishes to.
අර අසුබේ සුබ බලනවා වගේ කියන එකද? අසුබ සංඥාක
Yes.
දෙයක් බලනවා. ඒක නේද එතන කියන්නේ.
No, asubhe subha. Hari. The perception is he dwells perceiving the unrepulsive, the mema hitanna, right? When you're, let us say, when you're caring, right? When you're caring, let us say you are a young mother or a father, or, you're dealing with a child or an old parent, and, you have to deal with these, in intimate care. You have, feces and other sort of substances that you have to deal with. දැන් මෙතන මේ අවස්ථාවේ රහතන් වහන්සේට පුළුවන් කිසිම පිළිකුලක් නැත. The Arhat can, without any sort of repulsion, be with the repulsive object. Do
Yeah,
you?
but that would be the middle, the equanimity of it. But how do you see, for instance,
There is
how
no,
do you see the Subha? How do you see Subha in the feces?
This is the way that you are seeing. You're maneuvering the mind in whichsoever way that you're doing it. For example, so let us say you're in a situation of cleaning feces of a person, right? The Arahat, let us say a Arahat is dealing with the elderly monk, let us say. Right? And the Arahat is able to, he has mastered his mind. So for him, there is no problem in dealing and cleaning this old senior monk, right? With loving kindness. And regards it as අර අපිරියාවක් නැතුව ඒ අසුචිත
Oh, එතකොට neutral වෙනවා බන්තේ නේ. Neutral mind එකනේ.
Neutral mind.
That's the middle. Not repulsive, not unrepulsive, but
This is
neutral.
not, hold on, Shiroma. This is not talking about something like this. Is talking about the 5 ways that a Arahat has a mastery over the way that they perceive objects. They're talking about the 5 perceptions. එතකොට අරමුණත් එක්ක ඉන්න පුළුවන්, even if the object is repulsive, they can perceive the unrepulsive within it. How? He either pervades it with loving kindness or regards it as physical elements. ඒ අසූචි තුල තියෙන ධාතු මනසිකාරය නැත්නම් ඒ අසූචි සුද්ධ කරන, the cleaning of the feces or that care that he is giving that elderly monk, he will do it with loving kindness. In such a manner, the the conditioned lobe and such does not arise. Why? Because he has mastered the perception. Right? Mastered the perception. Right? Now, which does not mean, Shiroma, that it will always be upekka.
Okay.
Do you understand? Why Kriya Chittas can be upekka and somanassa?
Yeah.
Kriya Chittas, the Chittas, that functional Chittas can be both upekka and somanassa. Hence, it is not just neutral, the conditioning is not there. Conditioning towards the අර මේ අපිරියාවට නැත්නම් එතන ද්වේෂයක් ඉදීමට එතන නැහැ කිසිම. The second perception, perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive, right? He dwells perceiving in the repulsive therein. How is that? He either pervades it with the thought of foulness or regards it as being impermanent. I can කියමු අපි ලස්සන රූපයක්. You see a pleasant, satisfying object. At that moment, the Arahat can pervade, then can issue his perception as he controls. He can now see the repulsive in the unrepulsive.
Yeah.
Right? He can see, perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive and in the unrepulsive as well. He can see the unrepulsive in the repulsive and in the unrepulsive. Right? And in the unrepulsive, meaning when you're with that Dhamma, which might be a result of good or bad, you can pervade the unrepulsive with regards to both of those objects, both disagreeable and agreeable. So you can see the unrepulsive in the repulsive and the unrepulsive. Does that make sense, everyone?
Physical elements and the loving kindness.
Both physical elements, unrepulsive, in the repulsive and the unrepulsive. Right. ඔතකොට අසුබ සංඥාව වඩන්න පුළුවන් සුබ අරමුණටත් අසුබ අරමුණටත් රහතන් වහන්සේ.
සුභාරුමන අරගෙන physical elements බලලා ඒකේ අසුබේ බලලා
No,
ඒකට
no,
ඔව්
no,
ඔව්
no, no,
එහෙමනේ
no.
සුබ
Myth.
දැන් සුබ එක
You're going, hold on, Shiroma. You have to come down to the conditionality. On the conditionality level, the perception is such. There is no maneuvering. The අර අකුසල් පැත්තකට maneuver වෙන condition is no more, no? The condition is no more. Hence, the arahat is able to, who has already mastered the mind, can see unrepulsive සුභ සංඥාව තියෙන්න පුළුවන් සුභ අරමුණටත් අසුභ අරමුණටත්. Do you understand? So it is the perception which goes into the subha or the unrepulsive object. How does the arahat do it? Again, loving kindness or dhatmansikara.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Right? Dhatmansikara. Perceiving, the fourth one, perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive and the repulsive. So the arahat can perceive the repulsive asubha of unrepulsive, which is subha and asubha objects. Right? And right? Now, rahat, when one is not an enlightened, a fully enlightened being, it might be difficult for the person to see a subha object, a good, pleasant object, and see the unrepulsive in it. But the arahat does not have an issue of that sort. Why his mind is not swayed again by the Nivarana Dhammas anymore. Right? Hence, he is able to perceive the repulsive of both the unrepulsive and the repulsive. How? The thought of foulness, asubha sanya and anicca sanya. Through asubha sanya and anicca sanya. Does that make sense? In seeing the perceiving the repulsive, in the unrepulsive, he sees through asubha sanya, thought of foulness. In seeing the repulsive in the repulsive, you can use
impermanent.
දෙකම පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් නේ repulsive.
දෙකම පුළුවන්.
දෙකම පුළුවන්. Right? He can use both. Hence impermanent. The fifth one, rejecting both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, and dwells in the equanimity. Sorry, rejecting both the unrepulsive and repulsive, and dwells in equanimity. Mindful and fully aware, avoiding both, agreeing සුභය සහ අසුභය නැති මැද රාතන් වහන්සේට ඉන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක. Now this is something that a lot of you are claiming to be able to do as well. Right? ඒ කියන්නේ මේ දෙපැත්තටම හවු වෙන්නේ නැතුව ඉන්න පුළුවන්.
I mean, you can develop it to that.
You can develop it, but ඒ මට්ටමට එන්නේ අර අනාගාමී කියන තත්ත්වයේ අතරියට පස්සේ තමයි ඒ තැනකට එන්නේ. Yeah, you know, only at that position, everyone. So please don't make those sankharas which hinders the light of wisdom shining in all of these dark corners or unseen corners of the mind, because the perception of it has not opened up, you see. Do you understand?
මේ පහටම බන්ති මේ පහටම mindfulness
පංචසඤ්ඤා.
වෙන්න පුළුවන්ද?
පහටම mindfulness. මේක පංච සංඥාව කතා කරන ශිරෝම to understand the way the mastery that when one comes to be an arahant, මෙන්න මෙයාට ඕන විදියට මේ ආර්යයන් වහන්සේට as the enlightened being wishes, he can maneuver the mind.
Yeah.
His mind is not based off the sammuti. His mind is not, his mind of course knows that the sammuti is a mirage. This is now seen through experience. Then oya thanata, this is the being who has perfected that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So his mind is not based on the sammuti, hence he is able to maneuver his mind just as he wishes. Then
Thank you.
example, the enlightened being can be in the middle of a very unwholesome conversation and maintain the mind in a subha way, with loving kindness. The enlightened being can be in the middle of an unpleasant conversation and develop a sense of disgust to it as well, impermanent or physical attributes or whatnot. The enlightened being can be in the middle of an unpleasant conversation hearing the Shabda and not have any reaction to it as well, which is the fifth one. Rejecting both the unrepulsive and the repulsive.
Yeah.
The Arahat can sit there in front of, let us say, a group of a magnitude of people, and all of these people are praising the Arahats to the high heavens, and the Arahat can be in a place where it is neither taken, it is not taken, rejecting both. නරක වචන ටිකත් හොඳ වචන ටිකත් දෙකම අත්හැරලා the Arahat can maintain the mind in a state of perfect equanimity. I think this gives us a further shining of prajna into our daily discussions today, also invigorating our spirit, I hope, in the positions that we aspire to reach ourselves. Neither.
Thank you, Bante.
So we've had a solar
flare.
A solar flare, and now because of the solar flare we are having some very good weather, very hot weather as well, right? And you're all here today on a beautiful day, especially if you're in the UK, because we're having good weather, at least where I am, and which is on its own a wonderfulity. There is generosity there, dana. There is virya there is prajna there is all of these wonderful aspects that culminate or lead to the perfecting of our practice. So in such ways, motivated by instances such as this that you accomplish for yourself, maybe you also wish that we have the strength to go further in our ability, in our capacity to let go of these sankharas pertaining to the past and the future, and to be in the present and not miserable, not missing sankharas, but in a state of subdued, dignified presence, genuine, authentic presence, shining. And what you're shining now is not the stories of history gone by, or caste and creed, or wealth, or all of these things that diminish with time. We shine brighter with the power, the confidence that we will never fall to the woeful states. We shine bright with the thought of, or with the inspiration and essence of Nibbana. We shine bright with our confidence in the present. We shine bright through all of the elements of enlightenment, the limbs of enlightenment that are working within this very moment. Because we have so much of pieces to be happy about, we will hopefully, not hopefully, if we are able to maintain this astute and upright way of mind, sort of seasoned in samadhi, we will never in our lives, in our samsara, fall into the woeful states. But as we know, conditions can come about and can derail us very easily as well. Illness and these kind of circumstances are a testament to that. But through the lifetimes, the more that you put your heart and soul into this practice, the more bonded you will become with the practice. So for example, if you just Google and go on to the Pansyapanas Jataka, and you go through, these are the stories of training as of Gautama Buddha, you realize the Buddha's strength in endeavoring through challenges, right? Keeping to what he believes in, or keeping to um, the goals that he set for himself, comes from lifetime to lifetime, becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Right? So these hurdles and encumbrances are not going to be the final ones, neither are they the first ones. All of these are challenges upon until we attain final liberation and enlightenment. So may all of these experiences that we are having, and may all of these effort, energy, strength that we are showing in our pursuing of Dhamma, may it touch the entirety of our lives, not only in this birth, but throughout samsara, and may it motivate us to end this cycle of sanskara happening again and again and again. And that is my wish and blessing to you and for myself as well. So thank you.
We wish you all that same, Bhante.
Bhante,
Sadhu,
it's
sadhu,
inspiring
sadhu.
and so confidence building your last thoughts to us, and the value of the present moment, because we have that ability to choose that, and we forget every moment. But you say the appreciation and the gratitude to have this moment like this together with you in these surroundings, Bhante. So thank you for reaffirming that for us. And the last, which I just want to say, Bhante, those last 3 pages that you put for us with the 2 charts, and the other thing, the less and more. I mean, it's in our minds at the moment.
I will share it. I will share it.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu,
Thank
sadhu.
you.
Sadhu,
Thank
sadhu.
you, Bhante.
තෙරුවන් සරණයි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ.
Teruvan saranai.
තෙරුවන් සරණයි.